New layoffs will happen in the coming days. The recent performance without punctuation raised an urgent alarm behind the scenes and reopened a decision at the quarterback position that the entire coaching staff had already considered completely settled. The underwhelming performance in the last preparatory commitment forced the head coach to act quickly to contain internal pressure and prevent this momentary fluctuation from turning into a crisis at the start of the season. This instability in the playmaking department has heavily impacted the receiving group, where a young talent that had been catching attention in training suddenly lost ground, and now sees his spot in the main rotation seriously threatened. The last opportunity before the official debut turned into a true dividing line for several athletes on the roster, making the upcoming test a decisive moment for those still looking to secure a permanent place on the team. I'll reveal shortly what really changed in the quarterback competition, which receiver is losing ground, and how the coaching staff intends to address this issue immediately. Please subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, and it helps me a lot. Starting with Roman Wilson, the concern isn't just with the 16 yards gained. The receiver was targeted on 5 passes, made 2 receptions, and was also involved in both interceptions thrown by Will Howard. On a team that needs reliable options for Aaron Rodgers, small mistakes can weigh much more than they seem. Wilson enters his 3rd season in the NFL, carrying significant expectations. In training, the player receives praise and shows the ability to win battles, execute routes, and participate in key plays. The problem is that this quality has not yet appeared with regularity in games, precisely when the coaching staff needs to see security. Mike DeFabo's assessment from The Athletic summarizes the moment well. The wait to see Wilson confirm in games what he shows in training continues. Veteran Rodgers is known for demanding precision, and a receiver who runs the wrong route or fails to complete a play can quickly lose confidence. This is the most delicate point for the young athlete. It's not enough to seem prepared during the week. It's necessary to turn the opportunity into production when the pads are on and the defense is pressuring. Against the Jets, Wilson had enough chances to change the narrative, but ended the game leaving more questions than answers. The clearest threat could be Jeremy Bernard. As a rookie, Bernard still needs to prove he can perform at a high level. But if Rodgers sees more consistency in the newcomer, Wilson could drop to the 4th or 5th option among receivers. For a player who already needed to carve out space, this drop would be hard to reverse. And urgency increases because there's only the matchup against the Buffalo Bills on August 27th left before the start of the regular season. There won't be a long stretch of games to test combinations. Every route, every reception, and every decision could influence the number of plays Wilson will see in September. The worst-case scenario for Pittsburgh would be losing a talented player due to a lack of confidence. Depth in the receiving group is essential, especially in a long season with injuries and constant changes. The franchise needs Wilson and Rodgers to find synergy quickly, but this necessity brings us directly to the other major problem revealed against the Jets. Will Howard entered the field with a huge opportunity in the battle for the backup position. With Aaron Rodgers resting, it was up to the young quarterbacks to show command of the offense and poise in making decisions. However, the first half ended with 10 completions on 15 attempts, only 74 yards, 2 interceptions, and no drive that ended in scoring. The performance was particularly harsh because Howard needed to make the most of every minute. Instead of controlling the offense, the quarterback seemed hesitant at crucial moments and failed to avoid mistakes that compromised the progress of the drives. An opportunity of this size may not come around again soon. Drew Aller also struggled, suffering 3 sacks, but the evaluation of the rookie seems to be heading in a different direction. The coaching staff shows interest in developing the player as a long-term alternative for Rodgers. This perception completely changes the weight of each performance within the group. Howard, selected in the 6th round of the 2025 draft, arrived in Pittsburgh with a respectable story. Before that, he led Ohio State to the national title in 2024 and gained experience at Kansas State. In his college career, he played 50 games, completed 63.8% of his passes, threw for 996 yards, 83 touchdowns, and 35 interceptions. These numbers show that there's material for development, but the NFL demands immediate results. Against the Jets, Howard did not demonstrate the control the team expected. The impression that he could be cut has gained strength, especially since Aller seems to be receiving more confidence from the new management. However, just when the situation seemed practically resolved, information emerged that could change the entire narrative of this competition. According to Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, the organization plans to keep Aller and Howard among the 53 players on the roster. And there's an important detail. This decision is said to have been made even before the loss to the Jets. This means that Howard's rough night may not have altered the franchise's main plan. Instead of seeing just the most recent mistake, Pittsburgh appears to be evaluating the potential, contracts, and the possibility of development of both quarterbacks. For the fan, it's surprising news, but it also shows that the construction of the roster might be considered beyond a single game. Aller was selected in the 3rd round of the 2026 draft with the 76th overall pick. At 22 years old, he brings a background of 44 college games with 63.7% of completed passes, 7,265 yards, 61 touchdowns, and only 12 interceptions. He also added 707 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns, numbers that help explain why there is so much expectation around him. Haller's rookie contract is for 4 years and worth $703,408, with an average annual value of $1,175,852. For the 2026 season, the salary cap hit is $885,000. Therefore, the franchise is not only observing a player, it is protecting a recent investment and planning a possible future solution. Howard is 24 years old and also has enough experience to justify his retention. The quarterback spent 5 seasons in college football, evolved in important programs, and demonstrated the ability to throw and run with the ball. His rookie contract, worth $481 million, includes a signing bonus of $248,100. The choice to keep both may indicate that Pittsburgh intends to carry more options in the quarterback group, at least during the initial roster formation. Rodgers remains the primary reference. Mason Rudolph offers experience, and Aller appears as a long-term project. Howard, even after a very rough night, may get another chance for development. Still, the situation cannot be treated as comfortable. Retaining a spot on the roster does not guarantee participation, nor does it eliminate the need for improvement. The quarterback will need to correct his reading of defenses, protect the ball, and demonstrate that the 2 interceptions against the Jets were an accident, not a pattern. The same logic applies to Aller. The 3 sacks taken also reveal problems in protection, processing, and execution. The rookie had better moments in his debut against Green Bay, when the aerial attack functioned with more efficiency, but now he will have to prove he can respond after a performance below expectations. This is precisely where Mike McCarthy comes in. In his first season as head coach of Pittsburgh, following Mike Tomlin's departure at the end of 2025, McCarthy needs to turn a scoreless loss into practical learning. The coach acknowledged that he wished he had seen more productivity, but also made it clear that the game provides important material for correction. The so-called teaching tape will have plenty of content. The team needs to analyze protections, route execution, quarterback decisions, and how the offense reacts after a negative play. Against Green Bay, there was control and production in the aerial game. Against the Jets, inexperience was evident in almost every sector. The difference between the 2 games should not be ignored, but it also doesn't need to cause panic. The preseason exists to reveal flaws before they cost important victories. The problem is that Pittsburgh cannot repeat the same mistakes when the regular season begins because stronger opponents will exploit every weakness without offering mercy. McCarthy stated that there would be more points to correct this week than the previous one. This honesty is necessary, especially for a roster that is learning new methods and trying to understand the demands of the coaching staff. The coach needs to find a balance between demanding results and preserving the development of young players. Howard demonstrated the right mindset by saying that mistakes need to be analyzed before they grow. 1 or 2 issues can be corrected. A string of ignored failures turns a bad game into a loss of confidence. For the quarterback, the next step will be to show that he can learn quickly and respond on the field. For Wilson, the situation is even more urgent. The receiver cannot rely solely on praise from training sessions. He needs to show up against Buffalo, run his routes accurately, and deliver a performance that makes Rodgers trust him in decisive plays. Otherwise, Bernard and other young players may take the space that once seemed reserved. In the end, the 2 stories are connected. A quarterback needs reliable receivers, and a receiver needs a quarterback capable of distributing the ball securely. Against the Jets, this connection failed, but the coaching staff still has one last opportunity to find out whether the problem is temporary or structural. Pittsburgh enters the last preseason game with 1 win and 1 loss, but the score doesn't tell everything. The 17-0 loss exposed real risks, while the decision to keep Aller and Howard shows that planning can be more patient than the fans imagined. Now, the matchup on August 27th takes on significant weight. Rodgers should continue to be the focal point of the offense, but the depth around him will be crucial. Wilson needs to make up ground, Howard needs to regain credibility, and Aller needs to show that the sacks do not define his preparation. At the same time, McCarthy will have to prove he can turn confusion into progress. As a Steelers fan, it is impossible not to feel concern after a scoreless night, but it would also be hasty to abandon young players after a single poor performance. The big question is who will respond when the pressure mounts, because the schedule waits for no one, and week 1 is already approaching. The game against Buffalo may answer some of these questions, but it might also reveal an even greater conflict within the team. If Wilson continues behind Bernard and Howard shows no improvement, the decision to keep both may be questioned quickly. And when the season starts, the question will be inevitable. Is Pittsburgh developing its next pieces, or just delaying cuts that already seem necessary?